Juanita, over to you.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Katie. Thanks to everyone for inviting me here today to come and talk to you about this fabulous initiative. That's the email address. Should you have any questions, take a snap of it on your phones. If you want to get in touch with me in future about any of what I'm going to talk to you about today, which is about creating digital learning opportunities for children and young people while raising their awareness of climate change. And I wanted to start with just outlining what the problem is that we're trying to actually solve. The United Kingdom is actually one of the most nature-depleted countries in Europe. And many of us will have watched Sir David Attenborough's Wild Isles series recently on the TV and reacted with utter shock and horror as he revealed various statistics such as there have been 40 million birds disappeared from our skies since 1970, and that's according to the RSPB. And a team of researchers at the Natural History Museum have actually developed a biodiversity intactness index that allows them to track the state of biodiversity across regions, countries, and habitats. So while countries such as Canada and Finland have 89.3 and 88.6% of their biodiversity left intact, the UK only has 50.3% remaining. And the key driver of biodiversity loss is land use change, particularly when it is converted to agricultural land. So from storing carbon to providing food and medicine, ecosystems and biodiversity are absolutely fundamental in supporting human activities and also promoting mental and physical well-being. But as biodiversity rapidly declines and critical ecosystems disappear, we can't address the causes and consequences of climate change without protecting and restoring those ecosystems. And another huge issue that we face is that children and young people are begging us to have agency to tackle these problems. So how are we going to make that change? Well, in 2021, a group of passionate people at the Department for Education began to develop a strategy to positively respond to climate change and to inspire action here at home, as well as on an international stage. And by bringing together work that already existed within the department and talking to young people and our key stakeholders, the new team was able to launch this holistic strategy that recognises and builds upon the key role of education in tackling climate change. We're creating opportunities to change behaviours through 5 action areas and those 3 key initiatives, helping to create a sustainable future through education, developing the skills needed for a green economy and supporting our sectors to reach net zero targets. And we believe that this is not only ambitious, but it's also the first strategy of its kind to set out a systems approach to the education sector. And this is just the start. 2 of the key initiatives you've just seen on the slide there are the National Education Nature Park and Climate Action Award Scheme. This programme was inspired by the Economics of Biodiversity, or the Dasgupta Review. That was an independent global review led by Professor Sapatha Dasgupta, and it highlighted the economic value of nature. And the report also showed that connection to nature is not developed simply through contact with the natural world, but through developing feelings and gaining knowledge and insights, which then lead to pro-environmental behaviours. The review also stated that connection with nature declines in childhood to an overall low in the mid-teens, and creating an environment from an early age where children and young people are able to connect to nature is essential for self-enforcement in protecting and valuing nature. We're also obviously working cross-government and working towards the 25-year Environment Plan, which commits to encouraging children to become closer to nature, both in and out of school, and also the Environment Act of 2021, which commits to supporting nature's recovery. Harnessing the combined area of the whole education estate as the National Education Nature Park intends, and giving young people and children agency, it gives us the opportunity to make that positive environmental change. Now, throughout the development of our strategy and policies, as I've already said, we've engaged with children and young people to test, but also to co-deliver alongside us. And this includes, for example, ministerial youth panels where youth representatives have directly fed back to ministers. At COP27 last year, some of you may have seen our youth voices, and they were helping with the delivery of the strategy, and also high-level discussions were held to secure education and green skills commitments to prepare young people for a changing world. And we hope to build on this momentum at COP28 with the United Arab Emirates. As we begin delivering this strategy, we're continuing to explore how best to engage young people, to give them that voice that they demand, and the opportunity that they need to feed into climate in education policy. So we're now looking to engage with young people through pre-existing youth panels across the Department for Education, government, and the whole sector. And we aim for this to be supported by 2 volunteers aged between 18 to 25 who will engage with other young people directly and work with policy leads and attend events. You might have seen some adverts for that going out live recently. Children and young people are clearly a very important part of our policy making because they asked us to have these opportunities to take positive climate action and drive solutions to address their growing concerns. And I was recently at a school's climate conference in Sheffield and was absolutely overwhelmed with the passion and the commitment that those young people who I met and spoke with showed. They are only too aware of climate change and biodiversity loss and the huge challenge that requires action from every single one of us. A further issue that we're trying to address is access to green space, and it's been shown to have tremendously positive impacts on the physical, mental and emotional well-being of children and young people, but sadly, children from disadvantaged backgrounds are less likely to spend time outdoors regularly than those from more affluent backgrounds. So in tackling these multifaceted, wicked problems, we now have a partnership led by the Natural History Museum. And the National Education Nature Park will bring together all of that land across the whole of the education estate into a vast virtual nature park. It will enable those children and young people in those settings to become involved in taking practical action to improve the biodiversity of their individual education setting, while also learning about nature's role in climate change. Launching this autumn and using geospatial tools developed by Esri, children and young people will be able to, first of all, map the biodiversity of their setting and then see how it changes over time. And all education settings can sign up right now using this QR code to register their interest. Participation in the Nature Park will provide so many educational opportunities for young people to take part in the largest community science project ever undertaken in this country. Along with biodiversity monitoring, mapping and data analysis, they will learn skills in bioscience and digital, and all of it will be underpinned by a strong foundation in numeracy. And all these skills are going to be needed as we transition to net zero, along with wider environmental goals. The Nature Park will help children and young people develop their connection to nature, as well as support their mental and physical well-being by learning outside. And within the park's online hub, there will be a wealth of information and teaching resources to help education settings deliver that climate education, develop climate resilience, and also drive decarbonisation. The Climate Action Award Scheme will recognise the incredible work that's already being done in schools, colleges and nurseries through existing award schemes, and the new scheme will provide a framework to guide those settings to take their environmental work to the next level through developing their students' green skills whilst championing nature and working towards a sustainable future. At the highest level, young people will be researching and undertaking projects that will prepare them for apprenticeships and further study in the new green economy. And we envisage that young people will want to include the award on their CVs when applying for further and higher education and for employment. We see the park and the awards benefits. It can have a role in inspiring young people to choose career paths like those illustrated in the intro video that support the transition to net zero as well, and also to improve the resilience of the school estate to temperature rise, flood and drought. Piloting of the programme has already begun, and as I've already said, the national rollout will begin this autumn. Throughout the programme, the Department for Education will act as a conduit, signposting schools to the right services, the right funds and the right tools to improve the biodiversity and climate resilience of their own grounds, but also wider out into the local community. Working closely with Esri, we'll also be able to tackle the digital deficit for those disadvantaged schools. The park will help children and young people to develop skills in data visualisation and analysis, encouraging analytical thinking and problem solving that will really empower them to access those careers and participate as Britain leads the world into the green industrial revolution. Topics related to climate change and the environment are already included within the citizenship, geography and science national curricula. But the curriculum also offers flexibility, and we're seeing excellent work in climate education at all levels in many schools right now. And schools will always have the choice over how to integrate the nature park into their curriculum across all subjects, so that we really do truly embed climate education at last. Our further and higher education sectors will also continue to receive our support as they deliver programmes teaching the skills of the future and nurture our future leaders. And we're very proud to be the first country in the world to convene an international Green Skills Conference to be held on the 28th of September at Imperial College. It'll bring together further and higher education sectors, businesses, policy makers, young people, adult learners and international partners to explore the key skills issues to meet the challenge of the transition to net zero and the support of nature's recovery. The Nature Park also gives the Department for Education the opportunity to use a long-term study into young people's access to nature and the biodiversity of the school estate, so that we can provide more support where it's required. It will also create our future climate and nature leaders through the award scheme, and has the potential to be the umbrella for lots of future initiatives. So the Park and the Award Scheme is just one of the programmes within our whole strategy that will provide learners with the resources to live, to learn, to work and to participate in a changing world. Through climate education, green skills and careers, the Department for Education is helping to create a sustainable future, developing the skills needed for a net zero economy and supporting our sectors to adapt to the impact of climate change. Education is fundamental to help mitigate climate change and support adaptation efforts. And by giving young people the knowledge and the skills to adapt and make informed decisions for this changing world, we will all have a better and more sustainable future. You can join in with all of the activities happening around the country this coming Thursday on the 18th of May for Outdoor Classroom Day. And you can look out for more information on the International Green Skills Conference, as well as further developments to do with the park and the award by scanning this QR code And I'd like to thank you all very much after lunch for your very kind attention.